Good evening, everyone. This is Rob with MMORPG.com. Tonight I have with me Kedhrin Gonzalez from Illfonic, and we're going to talk about Revival. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight, Kedhrin. How are you doing?
Great, man. It's it's a little hot in here. They turn off the AC at night, so I'm kind of starting to sweat, but I'm making it through.
That's not something I want to picture. So, for everybody that's joining in on us live, and for those of you guys that watch this later on video on demand, you can see that I've got some screenshots rolling along to the sides of our faces. These are actually in-game captures of what they're working on. But before we get into all of that, why don't you quickly, or longly, take some time and explain what Revival at its core is.
Okay. Sure. So I guess the most important thing to kind of define about Revival is it's a labor of like a love of what me and some other developer buddies have kind of wanted to do for ages with the MMO genre, because we've worked on MMOs before, but we kind of got, it kind of turned into this thing where we wanted it to be like some like crazy, like, we're making players feel like they're living and breathing in a world, and there's like an actual world you come and connect online, and everything's happening and so much stuff's going on, and it always ended up being the same stale world where if there's no other players around you, you're just basically running around a static environment. And so that was kind of at its core, that's what Revival and what we wanted to do, is we wanted to make a world that isn't just, it's not so dependent on players doing everything that if there's no players around, the world it just stays still, but at the same time the world will completely change rapidly depending on what the players do. And to help boost that, though, we have this thing called live storytelling, which basically we go in and we kind of introduce changes to the world to see how players will adapt to them. So basically, if players don't do anything, then we're going to enforce our changes onto the world. But the players have the ability to fight back against our changes and completely override everything we're trying to do. So it's kind of in a way we're setting up a system where our GMs are almost acting like gods on the game world, and they're basically coming in and being like, we're going to plan to destroy this city, but we're going to give players the ability to alter that or change it or completely stop it altogether. And that's kind of at its root essence, like the general idea behind Revival is like this living, breathing world. But it goes really far in depth as far as everything. Like, we wanted to make it feel like more like you were playing a blockbuster AAA video game, where you're not looking at this character that's sitting in the center of the screen and just has these static animations and movements and jumps, and you see those on almost every single MMO these days. Like, the character just feels like they're all kind of the same thing, like dead center of the camera and far away, and they all kind of look the same, all cartoony and stuff like that. So we kind of took like a more mature kind of like approach to it and chose a more like I want to say masculine like type of a like vibe. So for example, like you don't see like the super hot girl like walking around, because we think that breaks the immersion. And that's not to say that there isn't that, because there's prostitutes in Revival, but it's like people get dirty. Like, your character, if you're not you can take a bath in the game, and if you're not taking a bath, you'll slowly see your character get more and more dirty. And that's like, we wanted to bring this, like, if you're playing in a medieval fantasy world, that's a very real thing that would happen. So we want to emphasize like this, the raw, dirty, like kind of like extreme grunge side of the game. That blended in, of course, with the games being it is Lovecraft inspired, so you expect a lot of weird, disturbing things happening across the board, and very kind of violent, mature action adventure. The combat's very real-time, animation-driven, so you're not sitting there pressing 1 through 0. We don't have any of that in the game. It's more like, you have combos you can do with the mouse or controller during fighting. So your swords, you have like, you're not just attacking and it's just doing like a predefined animations. It's like you're controlling like a down attack, an up attack, a forward thrust, a backswing, like all that kind of stuff. And then as you progress in the game, you can unlock new moves and new ways of blocking, and even when it comes down to like shooting bows and arrows, that's like in first person, and like where your arrow actually hits will actually correlate to you actually hitting somebody or not. So it's not like a 100% roll the dice system. It's like a 50% skill-based, 50% roll the dice system. And that's in the combat. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch to say about the game. I mean, I guess, it kind of goes where you want to go from there. I mean,
well, why don't we talk a little bit more about the storytelling? Because for me, that's one of the more important aspects of any game like this, is that, I guess, it's not necessarily that I'm following a specific story. Maybe that I'm kind of creating my own within this world of, a background lore established for us.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell me a little more about that system?
Okay, so the live storytelling, so think of it this way, right? Like, when you're playing in the world of Revival, it's almost like it's free to play, but it's almost like you're watching like a TV series, like a season, like this is what's going to happen in the world, and our GMs will plan out like, this whole season, here's these major events we're going to introduce to the players. But unlike other storytelling, it's one big thing that we've really tried to analyze, like why are players giving pushback on stories and MMOs, and we think it's because of the way that stories are being introduced rather than the fact that there's a story in the game at all. So the way this works is, we have these big events, and these big events will introduce like, we're going to sink a continent into the ocean. Like, that's our planned event. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's an example. And we'll give the player the ability to change that. So it's more so a matter of us, like, having these live storytelling things that go from seasonal, monthly, bi-monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, even down to the each hour. Our GMs are doing stuff with players and engaging them to do like crazy cool things. And those are, and it's really just more so think of it like a dungeon master. If you're playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, he's the guy who has like the ideas of how to play, but he's not trying to play against you or for you. He's just trying to give you the scenario, and you decide how you react to that scenario. And we're completely open to us failing and you winning, or the other way around. Like, that's not important to us. All that's important to us is giving you the situation, see how you adapt to it. And that's kind of like the essence of the live storytelling component. So there's that whole angle, and it constantly changes. So if you quit playing the game for a month for whatever reason, work or something, you come back, you can expect the game world to be completely different. And that also echoes across the different servers. And we do have regional servers like North America, Europe, Asia, just to make sure that during hot times players can play when the GMs are like really focused on doing a lot of stuff, that they'll have a chance to see it. So you can actually, as a North American player, go jump on the European server, and the European GMs will have something completely different than what's going on in North American servers. So going between the servers, you'll actually experience completely different gameplay worlds because of the actions the players are doing. Now, we do keep like a global storyline focus and goal. Like, there's definitely like an overall arc that happens and that's planned. But again, it's never like this is going to happen and you can't stop it, unless it's an event like, because it is, Lovecraft based, like it's all based off the elder gods and stuff like that. We'll plan things like, let's just say, for example, Cthulhu rises from the water and the ocean. He comes up. Like, that's something the players can't stop, but because it's kind of one of like the sudden events that will happen. But it's something that players can quickly react to, and how does that change stuff? We'll let players decide that. So it's something radically new, I think, for the MMO landscape.
I think it sounds amazing and very ambitious. Very interested to hear how you guys plan on pulling that off.
I mean, honestly, most of that, it comes into the fact, one of the biggest things is, the fact we're using CryEngine 3. It's a very real-time engine, so that means, we have our tool set that we build the levels and everything like that within the editor, and then, that's fine and dandy, but then we have literally a real-time editor that's in the game itself that our GMs have access to, and they can do everything from placing spawns, or like, they have a spawn placed and they can literally possess that guy and like talk through him. So you'll sometimes be talking to a GM who's, acting basically through a character. So that's kind of like a lot of the stuff. You know, we'll be doing things where like an actor will be actually talking live through a character, and none of that would be possible before. But you know, since CryEngine 3 is so real time, like it's not that big of an issue anymore. It's more so just a matter of manpower, and that's, you know, to a degree with today's games, you know, that's something that, you know, we feel confident we can work through.
Okay, that sounds great. Let's talk a little bit about the art that's been going by. I mean, the game isn't even in a beta state at this point, but this art looks like something that's far beyond just normal concept art at this point. You know, it looks like it's almost a finished product. Where are you guys at with the? I mean, how do you guys at this level of art already compared to where the project is in development?
So with us at Illfonic, anytime we prototype something, it's our absolute goal to prototype not just the gameplay but also the visuals, because the visuals, from my perspective, deliver immersion, and I think immersion and entertainment are like the two most important components of today's video games. And I think that if we don't properly prototype that stuff and you just had the raw gameplay, you're not going to get the feel of what the game actually is. And to me, that's the most important thing, is how does this game, when I sit down and I explore this world, how does it affect my emotions? And to me, like, that's like the absolute most critical component, like, because that even, you know, directly dials into gameplay. Like, am I having fun? But am I having fun and feeling angry? Am I having fun and feeling depressed? You know, so it's like they kind of correlate right directly with each other. And I would say what you're seeing with the prototype pictures, I wouldn't even say that comes close to our final like vision of the game, but it comes close to kind of the direction we're going. Like a lot of the artwork and stuff we've been doing, we've just been like, okay, we got to make this stuff, let's make it, and we're just hammering it out, rather than going through the proper process of slowly concepting out everything and really trying to understand the purpose and meaning of all the assets we're making as we make them, for themes and stuff like that. So as we get, you know, more into production, you're going to actually see a lot more in-depth detail and kind of more emotional mood put into the individual assets.
Okay, we've talked about the story progression a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the character, or the individual character progression. I've seen a couple different types of, you know, avatars in these screenshots. Most noticeably the guy wearing chain and then with a big shield and a sword. But we've also seen someone that looks almost more like a merchant with a lighter type of armor. What kind of classes are, if any, are going to be available to the player, and how are they going to evolve throughout the game?
So Revival's classless. It's more like, I always tell people, if you want to touch base on something, it's more similar to Ultima Online, where it's a skill tree.
Okay.
It's each individual skills. So you, at any time, you can, you know, you don't have to change gear or nothing's like restricted to you because you're not blah blah blah. Like everything, you can just go and do anything, like grab anything and, you know, grab an axe and start cutting down trees if you want to. But that is you know, those are things that progress like through repetition. You can also progress it through watching other players that are like good at it. Like if you're hanging out at the blacksmithy and like you're seeing a dude like go to town all day, your skills are going to start slowly ticking up. Of course, not as quick as if you were actually doing it, but that's another way you can do it. We have trainers around the world. Some trainers are very specific, like you absolutely cannot learn specific things unless you go adventure out, go find these trainers and have them like actually, you know, teach you like like how to use a special ore or how to use this special fighting stance that unlocks this new special fighting move, and all those like have quests, you know, attached to them that you can easily, you know, go and take over. But, and you know, those are, again, you know, those are all like systems that are tied into live storytelling. Like that trainer can get killed, that the city he's in can get leveled, but we have a backup system that will, you know, the voice acting will be the same, but the names will change, and we can, you know, teleport him. Like, oh, this guy is that just moved to this city across the world now, and now he's over here instead of over there. So you won't be locked out of it from trolls rolling around and killing key players all the time. So with the skills, yeah, it branches in every direction. We have so many with crafting. There's no, we have an absolute rule against loading the little bars, like progress bars, when you like click X and hold and you see a little progress bar. There's none of that in Revival. Everything has a mini game attached to it. So like